Well, good to see everybody again. We're looking forward to a good challenge going down to Tampa against a well-coached, very athletic team, and coaching against a friend of mine and Willie Taggart. We had a chance to spend some time together out on the West Coast at Stanford, and we're looking forward to the challenge. So with that, any questions?
Mark.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Mark.
After the LSU performance, a lot of the fans' expectations are maybe raised with this season. What about you guys? Are your expectations any different going into the rest of the year?
No. I think the biggest thing for me is to try to continue where we left off with regards to focusing in on, did we get better throughout the course of today? And then evaluate it and then come back with a plan to get better the next day, focus on the little things, and try to stay true to our objectives for the season, which are really to get better daily and just find daily improvement. So I think it's that simplicity and the approach that helps us just focus on what will make us a better team. And then hopefully by the end of the season you can see a ramp up. If you were to do a statistical analysis, we just continue to get better. And I think by doing it that way, it gives us a chance to alleviate the outside elements that really have nothing to do with improvement, especially with our young kids.
Go ahead, Matt.
Coach Lester was telling us how you guys have kind of gotten more than you expected out of Jordan Fredericks and also Dante Strickland in the time that he was in. While Irv was out, what have you kind of seen from them in the last couple of weeks?
I expected them to be good players. I really did. I thought that they were above average in high school. I mean, Jordan was Gatorade Player of the Year. Strickland averaged something crazy, 10 yards a carry in high school, and played both ways, as well as in the kicking game. And I always feel like skilled kids can play early in college football. A little bit tougher for the guys up front, offensive line and D-line. But been pleased that they have met those expectations and maybe exceeded because opportunities were there to get touches that came to, unfortunately, an injury with one of our good players who's back. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys progress, but I've been pleased with those guys.
Nico and then Brent.
Coach.
Nico.
We've been talking about the young guys here. It's their first road trip. Obviously, they've shown maturity well now. But just your thoughts of the first road game for these guys, especially.
It'll be interesting. It's the logistical movement that I always think about with freshmen. Because it's not so much once you get to the game. Because once you get to the game, the timeline's the same. The locker room's a little bit different, all those things, but that doesn't matter. It's more, does he have his necktie? Does he have his socks? I mean, inevitably, there'll be one or two freshmen that show up to a team meeting when we're in sweats, and they'll have their wingtips on. It's like, how many guys are going to do that? So I'm going to challenge them today to see who's the White Sox guy and who's the wingtip guy. White Sox with a suit and wingtips with sweatpants. It happens every year. And the big thing is for me not to get all bent out of shape over the little things. And we'll be ready. And it'll be exciting for those guys. It's fun. A lot of these kids haven't flown or haven't flown very often. And a chance to go play college football and be part of that environment is kind of cool. And they'll be ready to go.
Brent and then
Scott, when you face a quarterback who has some speed and can run, he likes to run and kind of spread things out a little bit. What sort of things do you do in practice? What sort of mentality do you have in the coach's room to kind of keep that ever present that you're dealing with somebody that will take off?
Right. I think it's twofold. It's defending the design run plays that are a part of their offense, the staples that we've been able to see on film and have tendencies and then attack the tendencies. And then the next one is doing a good job in the creative plays that a guy like Flowers can make. We all remember B.J. Daniels. I mean, I was the most frustrated defensive coordinator in the country going up against that guy because we'd have the defense, it'd be perfect. Most plays are about 3.5, 4 seconds long, and he'd turn it into a 7-second play. And you had to plaster the receivers and try to match up with them for a much longer time. You had to try to keep the quarterback in the pocket. I think anytime you play extremely athletic quarterback, you want to try to have him be forced to throw from a condensed area where he can't extend the plays or, squash the pocket down and make him throw through seams. But it's difficult to do against a guy like this. So we'll have our hands full, but you know, really attack what we know they're going to run by design, and then do a good job with our discipline and try to keep them in containment and coverage leverage on the back end.
Jesse, then Steven.
Ted Taylor's been back throughout camp, and I just wanted to ask how he made kind of the linebacker rotation as maybe that fourth or fifth guy, and how you think he's done so far.
I think Ted Taylor's done extremely well. You know, he's got good football smarts. He picks things up well, especially on his feet. You know, he's the type of young man that if you show it to him on the field and have him run through it or walk through it, he sees it very quickly. I've been really pleased with Ted. He's a pleasure to coach. We had an instance against, I think it was LSU, where he asked Coach Lee about a particular way they were covering down the field when we were covering down the field against their kickoff return. And he was suspicious as to how they were trying to block him. And we said, well, no, he's doing this, Ted. And then after the first kick of the game, Coach Lee went over and said, hey, Ted, you're right. You were right, what you said. So we're going to change up how we attack this block. And that's big for me with defensive kids. Defensive kids have to see it and believe it, or see it and say, Coach, it's not what we were practicing. And when a kid can give you good information in the middle of the battle, it just speaks volumes to his maturity. And you know, it's funny, he didn't have an opportunity to weight train the way you would like a kid for a couple years before playing, but he's gained like 9 pounds, you know, during the season. And I love the kid. He just gets better every day.
Steven, then Michael.
A little bit off the beaten path for a game week, but do you know what Ashton Broyles is up to? Is he taking classes?
He's playing at West Georgia. He's got catches. He's playing down there, and so is Wayne Williams. Both of them went to West Georgia. And I checked in on them, and I saw that they had, you know, Wayne has some tackles, and Ashton has some statistics on offense. So I'm happy to see those guys are still playing football.
My question is a bit out of context too, but I'm looking at a story on Alex Hodgkinson, and he told me that during training camp, when he sort of made the decision to leave the football team to go join the rugby team, that he came and talked to you. I guess how caught off guard were you, and how did that conversation kind of go?
I wasn't really caught off guard. I think it's difficult for a young man that's paying to play, and if they're not playing a lot or they don't see an opportunity. He worked extremely hard in the off season to try to get a chance, and you know, unfortunately for Alex, you know, some guys were better than him, and he saw it, he knew it, and toughest thing for him was, if you've ever met him, which you have, you know, he's got a great compassion for people, and he really loved the brotherhood of being on the team, but he had some other things that he thought he could work on, especially academically. He's an extremely creative young man that wants to do some neat things in the business world, and he will. So he's decided to say, I'm going to lighten up the load with football and the time it takes to put into the program. I'm going to go play some rugby, I guess is what he's doing, and start focusing in on my dreams that I can create academically. So shed a little tears, hugged each other, wished him all the best, and he's going to do great. I told him I'm going to stay in touch with him because I want to be part of some big idea he has, and try to make some money off him someday, because he's going to make a lot of money, that guy. He's a special guy. You know, we called him the Brit. You know, he's from England, and just a neat person, and another great example of the type of kids our players get to immerse themselves with here at Syracuse. You know, we got people from all over the world here, and that's part of the education, you know, getting to know people that come from different backgrounds, different parts of the world. And Alex was a great example, and we were lucky to have him in our program.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Coach, can you talk a little bit about the significance of this one, starting the second, third of the season now, senior team perform on the road against kind of a desperate team this week, you know, kind of your interest in how it's going to be?
For me, every game's extremely important, and the most important game is the one in front of you. So South Florida is the most important game of the season right now. And we're going to focus in on that. That's how we've approached it. You know, I like our game plan. I like our focus going into this one. The one thing that I do know is Willie will have them ready to play, and extremely athletic football team. So it's going to be a hell of a challenge. But for us, it's really trying to just stay within the framework of what are we going to do for the next 5 seconds of this play to win a game. And I think, once again, Mark, the simplicity of keeping it like that is probably the strength in our coaching staff and in athletes that understand that. Anytime you look too far down the road or backwards, you lose focus on the task at hand, and that's when you get hit in the mouth. So we don't want to get hit in the mouth. We want to attack it, and say, okay, take a deep breath, next 5 seconds, let's go. And that approach is probably something that I need to make sure I continue to do the rest of my career.
Your coach, obviously, the Bible was great as far as wrestling, getting guys healthy. But when you get to this point, when it's been almost 2 weeks since they hit somebody in a different uniform, what's the mindset of the guys that are kind of station to get back out there, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so. The first week we came back, had a quick practice on a Tuesday, so we could get South Florida in our mind and actually practice it rather than just talk about it, which was a little bit different than in the past. In years past, we've taken a break and just freshened them up and then started, getting ready. So what we did was we said, let's just put our base offense and defense out there against South Florida's base offense and defense and get a practice in. No game planning. Let's just react to what they do. Then we took a few days and we just lifted and ran and treated the injuries that we had and watched a lot of tape and then started to slowly formulate the game plan. Rather than in a day and a half or 2 days, we spread it out and said, all right, this little piece of the game plan, this little piece. And I've liked the way it's come together. Then we came back, had a Sunday practice, a Monday off, a Tuesday practice, where we basically split it up. So we tried to ramp things up a little bit slower. And I think in doing so, there's some calmness in the preparation. And hopefully that ramping up has our kids hungry to go out there and hit for 60 minutes.
Last 2 questions, Matt and Steve.
Irv was telling us he's not fully back on the kick return team yet. Is he 100% yet? And I guess, is that something
He's 100% ready to go. He made some Irv Phillips cuts in practice yesterday, and I said, it's the new normal, buddy. Wait till you see it on tape. He was smiling. He feels great. More than anything, I just want to limit his reps to offense this week. But if we need him to, he can go back and return punts and kicks with no problem. I just like to minimize the focus a little bit when a kid hasn't played for 3.5, 4 weeks.
Last question from Steven.
It seemed like Jason Emmerich played pretty well against LSU, especially compared to when he got in late last season. What have kind of been his biggest strides?
Well, I think he's done a great job in the weight room. He's increased his flexibility. His ability to stay on blocks longer is an area that he's improved upon, and that usually has something to do with his improvement with his lateral movement. Those big guys, if there's a target right in front of them, they can hit it really hard and knock them back. But when it's moving parts, then you have to work on your athleticism from side to side. So he improved upon those things, getting on the slide board, working on things with Coach Hicks in the weight room, and Coach Adam. And then he always had a very high football IQ and ability to see what the front was and understand how he's got to communicate things to the other 4 guys as well as the back or tight end that's involved in protection. So from a mental aspect, he was always very good, high level, getting things right. His ability or inability at the time a year ago to maintain and sustain blocks was probably his biggest task in the off season that he had to make improvements upon, and he did that. And I think by having him excel in that area, it gave us latitude to let Rob go back to guard. And the thing about the difference between guard and guard and center is at guard you can be a lot more aggressive. And you guys know Rob. Rob, especially on game days, an extremely aggressive young man. And I think there's nice balance there with those kids, and they're playing pretty well next to one another. And we got good competition behind them, so they're always looking over their shoulder. But been pleased with the group. They're going to have to play well Saturday for us to get that victory. Good? Okay.